Hi students, welcome to lesson number 28, questionnaire. Now let us start with the introduction. The tool is referred to as a schedule when it is used for interviewing, and it is called a questionnaire when it is sent to a respondent for completion and return. The process of construction of a schedule and a questionnaire is almost the same, except some minor differences in mechanics. The process is not simply listing questions that comes to researchers' mind. It is a rational process involving time, effort and thought. Now, let us learn the objectives. The objectives of the lesson are: 1. To learn the meaning of questionnaire. 2. To study the characteristics and its advantages and disadvantages. Now, let us examine the meaning of questionnaire. A questionnaire can be defined as a research instrument that contains multiple questions that are used to collect information from the respondent. Questionnaire is the most common instruments of data collection. It contains a set of questions logically related to a problem under study and aims at eliciting responses from the respondents. The content, response, structure, the wordings of questions, question sequence, etc. are the same for all respondents. A questionnaire is used amongst the literate respondents and for mailing purpose. Now, let us learn the process of construction of a questionnaire. The process of construction of a questionnaire is not simple, but it needs a rational process of involving time, effort and thought. It consists of the following process. 1. Questionnaire is an instrument for gathering data for a specific study. Its construction has a flow logically from the data required for the given study. So, determination or determining of the data is the important step in the design of the instrument. Through deep analysis of the research objectives, the investigative questions relating to research objectives, hypothesis and the operational definitions of the concepts used, data can be determined. 2. The data gathered needs to be displayed through the dummy tables, which is the best way to have adequate coverage of the information required for the study and also for securing the information in the usable form. This helps in identifying the gaps and duplications in the instrument and enables the designer to make relevant additions, corrections and deletions. Third one, who should be the respondents? Are they have the knowledge and understanding? The choice of words and concepts depends upon the level of the respondent's knowledge. This we identify as the determination of the respondent's level. Fourth one, choosing the method of collection of data is to be used at this stage, which is the best of communication, which is appropriate, face-to-face interview or questionnaire. The choice of question structure depends on communication mode which is chosen. Fifth one, drafting of the instruments is also an important step which determines the data required for the study. The broad outline of the instrument should be drafted, listing various broad categories of data. Sixth one, the investigator must examine each question in the draft instrument. This evaluation is done in terms of the criteria as A. The relevance of each question to the investigator's objectives and investigative questions. B. The type of questions open-ended or structured. C. The clarity and unambiguity of the questions. D. The questionnaire should not demand knowledge and information that the respondent does not possess. So, for this they should be the practicability of the questions. Seventh one, the revised draft should be pre-tested in order to identify the weaknesses of the instrument and to make the required revisions to rectify them. Eighth one, when the instruction is finalized after the pre-test, the procedures or instructions relating to its use must be specified. This specification is to ensure that different interviewers will deal with specific questions in a standardized manner. Ninth point, the format should be designed to be suited to the needs of the research. The instrument should be divided into different sections relating to the different aspects of the problem. Now, let us study the characteristics of questionnaire. The sequence of questions. A proper series of questions should be followed to increase the rate of response to the questions. Therefore, it is necessary to develop a structured sequence of questions that contain questions in the sequence. The sequence of questions is like screening questions, warming up questions, skip questions, transition questions, complex questions and classification questions, etc. For example, if you want to design a questionnaire for motivation and buying experience, then you are required to ask questions firstly related to the demographics and questions related to the time spent in different sections of the store, and lastly about their motivation behind every purchase. Second one, uniformity. The uniformity of questions is essential to keep respondents involved in the questionnaire until the end. Consistency of questions plays an important role, especially when you want to collect information about the personal opinions, demographic data or facts from the respondents. Better responses can be obtained only by keeping the uniformity and standardized format of the questionnaire. This helps in the statistical analysis of the data. If you are putting random questions together, then it will become difficult for you to analyze the responses of those questions. Third one, the exploratory one. Exploratory characteristic of the questionnaire help you in collecting the qualitative data. You can ask any question as long as it is related to the subject. The exploratory nature of a questionnaire helps you in getting detailed information about the topic. For example, if you can send questionnaires to women to learn about their spending habits, you can ask different types of questions such as the close-ended or open-ended questions to obtain different outcomes. Fourth one, easy to understand. A good survey is easy to understand. It should be designed in such a way so that everyone can read and understand the questions irrespective of their education level. This is an essential characteristic of a questionnaire. Now, let us learn the advantages of questionnaire. 1. It is economical. Questionnaire is an economical way of accumulating information. It is economical both for the sender and for the respondent in time, effort and cost. The cost of conducting the study with the help of questionnaire method is very low. In questionnaire, the researcher has to spend for paper printing and postage only. There is no need to visit each and every respondent personally. So, it does not require high cost for conducting of the research. Second one, the wide coverage. Questionnaire is probably the best method to collect information compared to the other methods like interview or observation. When the sample population is spread over a large territory, it permits a nationwide or even the international coverage. Questionnaire makes it possible to contact with many people who could not otherwise be reached. It can cover a large group at the same time. According to Good and Hatt says that when the researcher has to cover the group of respondents who are widely scattered, we can use the questionnaire in order to minimize the cost. Questionnaires could be distributed to all those members and information could be collected from them. This can be done by a single researcher without the large funds otherwise required to hire an interviewing staff to carry out the interview. Third one, the rapidity. Replies may be received very quickly in questionnaire method. In this case, there is no need to visit the respondent personally or continue the study over a long period. Third, for in comparison with other methods, the mailed questionnaire is the quickest method. Fourth one, the suitable in special type of response. The information about certain personal secret matters can be best obtained through questionnaire method. For example, information about sexual relationship, marital relationship, secret desires, etc. can be easily obtained by keeping the names of the respondents anonymous. The fifth one, repetitive information. Compared to other methods like the schedule, interview or observation, questionnaire method is regarded as more useful and cheap, where the repetitive information has to be collected at regular interval. And the sixth one, it is an easier method. Questionnaire is comparatively an easier method to plan, construct and administer. It does not require much technical skill or knowledge. Seventh one, it puts less pressure on the respondents. As questionnaire puts less pressure on the respondents for immediate response, he can answer it at his own leisure, whereas interview or observation demands specific fixation of time and situation. Eighth one, uniformity. It helps in focusing the respondent's attention on all the significant items. As it is administered in a written form, its standardized instructions for recording responses ensure some uniformity. Questionnaire does not permit much of variation. Ninth one, the useful preliminary tool. Questionnaire may be used as a preliminary tool for conducting a depth study later on by any other method. 10th one, the greater validity. Questionnaire has some unique merits as regards validity of information. In methods like interview and observation, the reliability of responses depends on the way the investigator has recorded them. Here, they may present biased or prejudiced information of their own, but in questionnaire method, the responses given by the subjects are available in their own language and version. Therefore, it cannot be wrongly interpreted by the researcher. 11th one, anonymity. Questionnaire ensures anonymity to its respondents. The respondents have a greater confidence that they will not be identified by anybody for giving a particular view or opinion. They feel more comfortable and free to express their view in this method. 12th one, most flexible tool for data collection. Questionnaire is no doubt the most flexible tool in collecting both quantitative and qualitative information. Now, let us learn the disadvantages of questionnaire. 1. It is limited response. One of the major limitations of the questionnaire is that it can be applicable only to those respondents who have a considerable amount of education. It can neither be used for illiterate nor for semi-literate persons. The questionnaire quite often fails to cover very busy and preoccupied persons among the respondents. Lazy and indifferent type of persons, the type of respondents who need to conceal a lot about themselves, the easygoing and shirkers among the respondents, the persons who have an unreasonable contempt for research and reform, and the persons who unnecessarily doubt the research workers' intentions, sincerity, devotion and commitment. These are the people who constitute a very important segment of the respondents to be covered in the collection of data, but they can be seldom caught. Thus, questionnaires are hardly appropriate for a larger section of this type of population. Second one, lack of personal contact. As in case of questionnaire, the researcher does not go to the field. He is not able to establish a proper personal relationship with the respondents. If the respondent fails to understand some of the technical terms or he has any doubt, there is nobody to clarify these technical terms or doubts. Even though the researcher tries in the best possible manner to make the questionnaire a simple, precise and convenient one. The aim and objective of the questionnaire can be much better explained personally than through any other means. Without the proper personal contact, it is very difficult to motivate the respondent to fill up the questionnaire. 3. Poor response. In case of mailed questionnaire method, the proportion of return is usually low. The factors which are likely to affect the returns are the layout of the questionnaire, its size, the organization conducting the research work, the nature of appeal, the kind of respondents chosen for research, inducement for response, etc. Fourth one, unreliability. The information collected through questionnaire cannot be said to be very much reliable or valid. If the subject misinterprets a question or gives an incomplete or indefinite response, very little can be done to connect such response. As against this, in an interview, there is always the possibility of rephrasing questions for further clarification. The questions can be repeated with adequate elaboration if it is so required, but in questionnaire there is no opportunity for repeating questions, explaining them or clarifying the doubts for a particular response. Therefore, in it the validity of respondent's response can hardly be examined. The investigator here is not a position to observe the gestures and expressions of the respondents. He cannot cross check the consistencies or misrepresentation of the replies. So, in questionnaire method, reliability of responses is very low. Fifth one, the illegible handwriting of the respondent sometimes creates much difficulty for the researcher to understand the responses. The respondents erase and overwrite too much. These create many difficulties in reading the answers. Sixth one, the incomplete entries. Often, most of the respondents fill up the questionnaire form very poorly. They sometimes leave out many questions altogether or fill in such a way that it becomes very difficult on the part of the investigator to follow those responses. Other than this, there may be the problem of language, use of abbreviations and ambiguous terms, etc. All these make a questionnaire an incomplete one. Seventh one, possibility of manipulated entries. In case of interview, the investigator directly interacts with the respondents personal and intensively in a face-to-face situation. He can judge a respondent's attitude, understanding of research topic and, if necessary, can ask some cross questions to correct various errors. So, usually the respondent cannot manipulate his answer, but in questionnaire it is very difficult to detect the errors of the respondents. Here the investigator does not have any facility to check the validity and reliability of the information. In the absence of the researcher, the respondents may supply the manipulated information. Eighth one, useless in-depth studies. The questionnaire method is not possible on the part of the researcher to conduct an intensive or in-depth study of the feelings, reactions and sentiments of the respondents. All these require a healthy interaction of the researcher with the respondents. But in questionnaire method, the investigator is not present in the field, so nothing can be done to establish rapport with the respondent. Due to this lack of interaction with the respondent, the researcher cannot go into the details of the respondent's life. So, through questionnaire, one cannot conduct an in-depth study. Ninth one, the response from improper representative section of the people. The respondents who return the questionnaires may not constitute a representative section of the entire group. Only mere responsible, research minded or those in favor of the issue may prefer to respond. Some of the important sections of the group may totally remain silent. This vitiates the final conclusions and not findings. 10th one, lack of rapport with the subject. There are many people who would not like to share any important information unless and until they are impressed about the rationale of the study and personality of the investigator. The questionnaire does not provide for any opportunity to the investigator to establish rapport with the subject, and this cannot attract the respondent for a better response. 11th one, not suitable for delicate issues. Some of the research areas are so delicate, sensitive, intricate and confidential in nature that it becomes difficult to frame questions on them. It is impossible to put down certain delicate issues in writing. To sum up the lesson, what we have learnt is questionnaire contains a set of questions logically related to a problem under study and aims at eliciting responses from the respondents. The content, response structure, the wordings of questions, question sequence, etc. are the same for all respondents. A questionnaire is used amongst the literate respondents and for mailing purpose. The characteristics of a questionnaire are sequence of questions, uniformity, exploratory and easy to understand.